get started. Welcome to our morning session on Monday, October the 27th. Man, time is passing. Again, I'm Darryl Dunnington, and I will be leading you in this session as we look over what we've covered so far and talk about where we're going, all in preparation for the certification. But not only certification, but also for skill enablement. As I had mentioned before, please do not miss any of these sessions. I will cover every one of the certification topics. I give you the answers. We look at the definition or description of each one of the topics, the artifacts that surround it. We look at how to navigate in the environment to that particular artifact, if it's within the development environment, or we produce you an image and or an image of what it looks like. So you'll have a visual and understand not only how to get there, what it looks like. And then we give you a use case to explain from a scenario when it would be implemented. And that's important because the certification test is all based upon scenarios. So it's a scenario-based certification. And by the way, as you'll see that we will prepare through a lot of pre-tests just to make sure that you're on track. I've updated all of your essays. Remember, those are important. They give you that additional bit of flavor or spice, I would like to say, so that you can have a conversation about the Pega technology when you're sitting for an interview. So let's go ahead and look at what we have scheduled for today. You see that last week, our last session was on the 23rd, our 6 p.m. session. We covered the certification. The certification components were captured. And so make sure that you go and listen to the podcast. It's in Spanish, so it's a good review for you. It helps solidify everything that we talked about in that hour and a half. The documentation is great. If you feel like that you need a bit more understanding about a particular topic, the document is there. It's very comprehensive, it's very detailed. It has identified everything that I talked about. And also, of course, we have the mind map. Look at that mind map. If you're not sure what comes first, as they say, the chicken or the egg, which one happens first, second, third, some of the technology in Pega, it's layered. So you have to know what to implement first. For instance, like a graphical user interface, we typically start with a template. So that would be first. And then we start with a view, that would be second. And then we'll come with a layout, and then we'll come with the controls. So that's a good example of if you needed to know something from that perspective, then go and look at the mind map. You should have received a WebEx recording that was sent out to you. And I don't show it over here, forgot to put that here, but you can also go to YouTube and it's out there on your channel. So hopefully everyone is utilizing those to their fullest extent. They are there for you as a knowledge library. It's a live knowledge library. It's targeted information to make sure that you truly understand the concepts that we are trying to convey. Here's an update from the 23rd. Some of you are caught up, so I want to acknowledge you guys. Shout out to Angel, Daniela, Hazel, Jesus, Gonzalez, and let's see here. Who is that? Jose? Reyes. So shout out to you guys. You guys are caught up. Congratulations. You should give you a round of applause there. Show you a little love out there. So continue because this is a complete learning experience. You need every part of it. That's part of the puzzle. If you are almost there, like for instance, let's see, Joshua Israel, you're almost there. You just have the 23rd to do. Jade, I want to encourage you. You have the last 2 days to get that done, along with Luis Miguel and Victor. So you guys get caught up. Everyone get caught up so that you can fit all the knowledge pieces of the puzzle together. Be prepared for the certification and for the skill that's needed to build solutions in the technology and to have an intelligent conversation in an interview. All of those are important. If you have any questions concerning any of the exercises that you're doing, the essays that you're doing, I'm not getting any feedback, then make sure that you contact me. That's important. And you guys are all missing the user stories, except for Jose Juan. So go back and do your user stories. Those are very important. It's 10% of the test, but when I say 10%, the application development portion of it is 25. So really, use case, user stories, it's about 35% of the test. So make sure that you go back and review that. That's why we have you do that. Again, that's another piece of the puzzle. Let's go to the next slide. So in our last session, we covered the reporting 5% and the security 5%. We spent about an hour and a half going over each one of the topics. So you should be familiar with it. We have all the audio and the recorded documentation that you can go back and listen to that. Now, based upon that last slide, let me go back to that last slide there. Let's go back. Yep. Here. Wednesday, you should have completed all of your Pega Academy modules, module quizzes, and challenges. The very last one is sizing a project in App Studio for BAs. That was the very last challenge, right? So again, it's very important because you have to set for the mission test. If you've not done all the challenges, if you've not done all of the quizzes, then it's not going to be enabled. And this is what I'm showing you. So this was the very last challenge. And so since I've gotten back in here and I've reset my system, I'm no longer enabled for the mission exercise or for the mission test. So let me say that one more time. Mission, in order to get access to the mission exercise and the mission test, you have to complete all of the module quizzes. So go back, complete all of the module quizzes, and I believe you have to complete all of the challenges. So if you're having issues with trying to solve some of the problems with the challenges, there's a video that is associated with it. So make sure that you make use of that video. Let's see if I can go to that. So yeah, so here's the challenge. If you're having issues with solving your problem here, though they give you a step-by-step instruction, you can always play the recording, and the recording gives you the solution. So you shouldn't have any trouble getting through all the exercises. But again, part of the class that in order for you to sit for the certification, the road to sit for the certification and to get the $175 voucher is you have to get through this mission test. All right. So very, very important that you go back and you look at all of that. If this is enabled, you're in good shape. If it's not enabled, then go back and answer all the module quizzes. And you probably have to do all of the challenges for both of them to open up. Okay. And we need that done. Let me back up again. We need that done because, well, let's go to today's session. So let's look at the overall today's session. By the end of this week, that Thursday, we are preparing for that mission test. By today you should start the mission exercise. Now you have all week to do it. It's 4 hours. It takes about 4 hours. They give you a limited amount of information, but they do give you a video to help you resolve it. So you should start this mission exercise. So I know that for today, you have a 2.5 hour audio to listen to. So the way I would break this up, if I were you, I would spend today listening to the audio and doing one of the essays, right? That's all I would do today. Spend all day doing that. And then you'll have time, maybe an hour to work on your mission exercise. On Tuesday, what I would do, I'd come back and I'd listen to these next two, combined data elements and the lecture on the data management, because that's a good 2 hour, 2.5 hours too. And I would listen to that and I would do that essay. So now I do one essay on Monday, do one essay on Tuesday, and you're in good shape. Today, I'm going to lecture over application development. That's 25% of the exam, 25%. So I need you guys to be focused so you can truly understand what we are talking about. Wednesday, when we come back, you'll have a essay to do. You have 2 essays to do, but these are short, right? These are really short. Here you got about 30 minutes to listen to and write that particular essay. And then this is probably, I don't know how long this one is. Oh, and then this is where I do the case management life cycle. So that's the last topic in the certification for us to cover. So we got 25% what we're going to cover today. I'll do half of it this morning and half of it this evening. Wednesday, I'll do the 30% of case management. That's the core Pega. You have 2 exercises that you should be able to do and complete. And Thursday morning, I want to make sure you guys understand this. Thursday morning, you'll take the mission test. So when it's all said and done, the latest that you can have your challenges and module quizzes outstanding is Wednesday night. Thursday, you have to be ready to take the mission test. You'll take the mission test that Thursday morning. We will sign you up for Pearson View. That's how you'll take the test. I'll talk about how to get signed up so that you can get into Pearson View to ready yourselves for the first exam. And then that Thursday evening, you'll take 2 pre-tests. Now, the mission test will only take you about 30 minutes to 45 minutes. Then I got 2 pre-tests for you to take. This one will take probably 30 minutes. And then this one is designed to take an hour and a half. So you'll have 2 tests you'll take. One will focus on project interview. So those are the user stories. And the other will focus on a real live example. of taking the BAE exam. So we'll have that set and ready for you. And notice that that Monday is a holiday, and that Wednesday we have you tentatively scheduled to set for the BAE certification. Now I'm still working with your administration at your school, but our goal is for you to set for the exam on Wednesday, November the 5th. So get caught up with everything. I know that's a holiday on that Monday, but you got that Tuesday to come back and study on that Wednesday. So we'll make sure that you are prepared and ready to go. If you have any questions about the process and what we are going to follow, please shoot me an email. Right, for our next session, as I mentioned before, I'll still be covering the blueprint, application development, so the 25%, so I will cover that. So you'll get some of it this morning, the rest of it this afternoon. So it's targeted, it's concise, it's modular. I'm not giving it all to you at one time, so it should be easily understood. All right, we'll meet today at 6 p.m. as always, your time, 8 p.m. my time, Monday. And don't forget, what is our goal? I show this every session because I believe it's important for us to remember what our goals are. Our goals are to work hard so that we can be prepared for these two certifications, and we're getting ready to set for the business one. If you have completed all of your modules and your module quizzes, and you pass the mission test, you will receive your first badge. Okay? So you have to score an 80 or above on the mission test, an 80 or above on the mission test. And then, of course, at the end, because this is the era that we're in, AI is very important. So we add to this class 4 AI certificates to make sure that you understand that discipline and that technology. All right, any questions? Questions, concerns? Give me a thumbs up if you guys understand where we're going, our roadmap to the certifications and learning. All right, thank you, Carol. Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Daniela. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Luis. Thank you, Fatima. All right, great. So I'm going to close this. Jesus, thank you. And all right, let's take a look at, thank you, Angel, the certification. Let's take a look at the certification. Where are we? What are we getting ready to do? Remember, this is the BAE certification that we're looking at. It is a 50-question test. They will give you an hour and a half if you do it in Spanish. They'll give you 2 hours if you do it in English. So that's up to you. It's all in Spanish, it's all in English, but just know as you have been going through Pega Academy, if you change everything to Spanish, there are some words that won't translate because they're technological words like data transform. Well, we want it to be a data transform. We don't want it to be translated into the Spanish equivalent. So just know that. And let's see. So we've already done Pega Express. I may go over that again because we did that much, much earlier than where we've done everything else. Case management. Remember I said I'd do that on Wednesday? It seems like a lot, but it's all about the case life cycle. And we've gone through all of that. That's core of Pega. It's probably the easiest, even though it's 30%, it's probably the easiest of all the technology. I spent time last week covering the data integration, which was 15%. Last Thursday, I covered security. and reporting. I believe that Monday I covered user experiences. So this morning or today, we'll look at application development, and I'll cover all the way down to rules, rule sets, and classes. That will take me about an hour to cover that information. And then later on today, I'll come back and I'll cover the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so 5 this morning and 5 in the afternoon. Okay, so hopefully you got your exercise systems up. Let me get into the Pega Academy exercise system, and I also have my. Let's move this over here. I also have my App Studio. I have my Community Edition that's open. Now, some of you might be running out of the Community Edition. I know the Community Edition runs until the end of the month, or I should say for 30 days. It runs for 30 days. And then you can create a new one. So don't worry about all the work that you've done. It's been a test environment for us, and you can go back and recreate, or I can show you how to export and package. Maybe I'll do that Thursday, show you how to export and package if you want to keep some of these. For instance, I may want to keep the wealth management because I've been using it for all of the demos that I've been doing with you guys. So there's a way to export it and then import it back in so that you can then utilize that. Or to be honest with you, since we did it with the blueprint, we have a file and all you have to do is upload the blueprint and we're right back where we started before. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look here. The very first one says, so go to your study guide. In your study guide, I am on page 37. I am on page 37. So go to the study guides, go to C1, Charlie 1, and pull out the study guide. Number one question is describe the role and skill required of a Pega architect, Pega business architect. So what is the role? What is the responsibility? What is the role? If you are a Pega architect, and we have talked about that, what is your mission? It says that the Pega architect is responsible for the key development of a well-designed Pega application. It actually rests on you. You are responsible for the design. Many people think, well, it's the system architect. Yes, they are doing the configuration, they're doing the bells and whistles, but you're responsible for the design. Is it well designed? Do you understand Pega technology well enough to where you are utilizing the core out-of-the-box features, OOTB? You're using the best practices, you're using DCO, you're using Pega Express delivery, you're using continuous integration, continuous delivery. All of those come into play, and those are very important. The goal is a well-designed Pega application that meets the business requirements. It doesn't matter if you use all the beautiful technology. If it does not meet the business requirements, then you miss your target. And it's for whoever the client's organization is to achieve a strategic objective. And I like this part, to make your customer happy. You want to be able to delight your customer. You want to be able to develop a solution where they've looked at what they were doing and now they're delighted with this new system and what the new system can do for them. Normally it's going to save them time, headache, money, make it easier for them to do their job, to analyze what needs to happen, to have reporting, to get a snapshot of where they are so they can make important financial decisions. So you will work with the partnership and the stakeholders from the client organization. That is your role, that is your responsibility. As a BA, you have to have enough technical knowledge to get into the system through App Studio, understand the design artifacts that are there, be able to have a conversation with partners, understand what their words mean from a business perspective. Take those words, for instance, through DCO, translate those words into case types, stages, steps, processes. You want to bring the client, organization, and Pega together so that they collaborate in the development of the software. That's the whole goal of the Pega software. That's why we have App Studio and we have Dev Studio. They are collaboration tools. What you design in App Studio, you can then implement through rules in Dev Studio. So now, what skill do you need? Well, the skill that you need is based upon your responsibilities. You need the skill to facilitate meetings, be able to gather requirements. Remember, there are requirements, specifications, user stories. And by the way, if you guys don't know how those fit together, typically which one comes first is you're gathering requirements, doing that planning phase of Pega Express delivery, doing that very first initial phase that you're in, you're gathering requirements. You know, what is it that we are trying to do? You gather those requirements. At some point, you take those requirements, and those requirements may split into multiple, one or more specifications. A bit more detailed, right? A bit more detail as to how you're going to do it. And then from that, you then will have user stories that will be built from those specifications and those requirements. Now you have enough information, you're building these user stories. So that is the responsibility of a business architect. Have meetings, gather the requirements so that it will support the business process transactions. And when you hear that term business process transactions, that is typically talking about a business outcome, which is a Pega case type. That case type has a case life cycle with stages, steps, and processes. And what is it managing? Data. It is managing data. Number two, you need a skill so that you can identify and document the business process. Identify and document the business process. So I don't want to talk too much. I want to get into the system to make sure that you understand that there are places like in the application profile, you go into that application profile and it gives you an opportunity to create these requirements, create these specifications, to document some of these things. Here are some features that you can then add. There's an estimator that you can then get into and do. Let's back up here. Of course, you have your case life cycle. In your case life cycle, that's where you're going to have all of your stages, your steps, and your processes. So this is your skill. This is your skill set to be able to work and have meetings and facilitate meetings, gather requirements from the business unit, and then utilize this tool and be able to build the solution out of it. All right, so let's see if my system coming up, but it's coming up slowly. There we go. And these are the stages and steps and processes that I was making reference to. All right, let's see. Now, using the blueprint in App Studio to demonstrate out-of-the-box functionality. So now I'm going to go over to my community environment. And in the community environment, we used Blueprint. Remember, Blueprint with just a limited amount of information or prompting it can build out so much information. Matter of fact, it prompted us and we wanted to do wealth management, and it was able to establish 5 case types for us, along with a relatively built out case life cycle. Wow. If you had to do that from scratch, man, you would have to look through your requirements and some other things. So Pega gives you the capability to use the out of the box functionality to help you leap start your process. And then finally, you need to promote the best practices. You know, what is the best way to do things? How should that happen? How should you go about doing that? And it gives you the capabilities to make that happen. So here you have App Studio and you have the blueprint where we went and we created applications. If I wanted to extend my application with blueprint, I could do it. If I wanted to create a new application, I could then do that, and I could say I want blueprint to help me with that and go through the prompting to go through that. You see, I can build from blueprint. I can create a blueprint. I can build from scratch. So you have all of these capabilities in Pega. Let's go back to here. You guys have been using GoGo Road to do a majority of your work. And let's see. And GoGo Road. Of course, you can extend with the application and with the new. And of course, don't forget over here to the right, some of the other tools. I just want to make sure I touch all the tools, let you know that you need to have the skill to be able to say when and where these are so I can go and manage those. Here I can go on my workbench, my agile workbench. I can add my user stories. I can identify bugs. That means when something is not working, it's been tested and it's not working as it should. I have my bugs. I can fix those and feedback. I've tested something. I want to give you feedback. Maybe the performance is not what it should be, or it might be excellent. But now you have a place to where you can document. You can document the entire process for you going forward. All right. I wanted to show you one other part of the documentation, just so you know where all your tools are. Now, the majority of the time you are in App Studio, but occasionally you may have to get into Dev Studio. And I get into Dev Studio and I can go to, let's see, tools. I can go to document. And here's another place to where it can generate different types of documentation for me. I got an application document that it could create. It'll create specification documentation for me, data model documentation. So all of these are places where you can go and utilize the tools that Pega has you for that particular skill. All right, so you see on the picture that's presented before you, talks about how you log into Pega, switch to App Studio. From that App Studio, you can go new application, and you can create a blueprint. Use case, when do we use that? Well, you do that because the business architect goal is to ensure that the business team understands the solution design. And you can easily do that because you can quickly build out a system for them, a prototype for them to enable them to see it. You don't have to just tell them about it, talk about it. You can actually show it to them so that it has the right balance, so that they can give you the feedback that you need to make sure that it stays aligned with the business objective. Also, you need to be able to ensure that the Pega developers have a clear understanding of what the business really wants. And that's difficult to achieve sometimes. Business understands what they want, but they don't understand the technology. IT developers understand the technology, but they don't clearly understand what the business wants. So there's tension, and you have to resolve that tension. So you have to make sure that they have a good understanding of the needs, the requirements, so that they can build the best technical solution available. All right, so that covers the first question. That was fairly thorough, so you guys should be fairly familiar with that. So let's go to the next question. Question number 2 out of 5. Remember, I said we'll only do 5. Number 2, describe how to identify the stakeholders on a Pega project. Now, as a business architect, you'll see that you work with many different people. There are many roles when you're rolling out a Pega solution. Because the technology is relatively expensive, it's set aside to do major development. Major development will typically include teams of 20 to 200. And you have to understand your responsibilities, what role you are to play. As that business architect, you are to collaborate with one or more of the project stakeholders, typically the product owner. You want to make sure that there is consistent alignment. You typically have meetings each day, every other day, end of the week, to make sure that there's alignment between the business unit and the IT project team. So that product owner is more on the business side. He or she is going to really drive the needs of the business. That Scrum Master is managing the IT project team and the delivery of that. So those are the two key roles that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. The product owner manages everything for the business or has true insight for the business. The Scrum Master has true insight for the IT team, and that's how they work. So what I want to do though is I want to go to Pega Academy, and let's go to one of the modules. They give a good example of the roles of all of the stakeholders. So I want to make sure that you know what those are. In the very first module, you see the role of the business architect. Let's expand that. And stakeholder interaction. Let's go to stakeholder interaction. And it's very, very descriptive. It's very descriptive. Every one of those that we have listed here, these are examples of the stakeholder, tells you exactly what they are. So let's spend some time to make sure you understand there will definitely be questions on the test, on the certification. They'll ask you when you are engaging in a Pega project, which one of these stakeholders do you engage for certain activities? So the product owner, let's quickly look at that, represents the business team. Again, so think about product owner. They have the product and typically they're paying for the development. You have money inside the organization. They've allocated a budget. The business unit owns the budget and says, okay, we're going to pay you internally to do this. And so that's exactly what the product owner is. So the BA collaborates with the product owner, the PO, as they say, to ensure that they are delivering what they're asking for, the outcome that the business unit is looking for. Okay. Now let's skip the project lead delivery right quickly, but let's go to the Scrum Master. Remember, I said those are the two key stakeholders that's in two different camps, but they have to talk to each other to come to some level of collaboration. Scrum Master, responsible for promoting the Scrum. Remember, we use this agile iterative methodology. Agile iterative methodology. We have sprints every 10 days that we're going to deliver a minimal, lovable product. That's what we're looking to deliver. And so that Scrum Master is responsible for organizing that IT team, having the ceremonies, those ceremonies or meetings, sprints, planning, backlog. Remember, user stories that are not actively being worked on, they're on what's called the backlog. And he or she, that Scrum Master, is responsible for the IT delivery. Now let's take a look at the project delivery lead, someone who is typically known as a project manager. They're responsible for leading the delivery team, maintaining project governance. So that's the person that you're going to call the meeting just about every day. Ask the question, where are you? This is what we discussed in the last meeting, that you were going to do these activities. Where are you? Based upon the activities that were assigned to you. So the BA will work closely with the project lead, the project delivery lead, or the project manager. Make sure that you stay on time, on budget, on scope. Many times as you're developing some of these complex solutions, they have a tendency to take 18 to 2 years. Well, 18 to 2 years, things change. Things change. People want to add more functionality in it. We have to determine, will that extend the scope of what we're trying to do? And if so, that adds more time to it. If it adds more time, it costs more money. And so that project manager has to manage that to make sure that in most cases that it's delivered on time and under budget. That's really what people will want. But in most cases, it's delivered because you add more functionality to it. It's always late and it costs more than what people would want for it to cost. And then you guys should be familiar with all the others. System architect, those are the Pega developers. You're the coders from a Pega perspective. You are configuring the rules. You're building out the solution. You're building out the design that the BAs have created for you. And you have different levels. You have a system architect. Many times they'll start you out as an associate system architect, then you're an architect, and then you're a senior system architect, and then you're a lead system architect. LSAs have a big responsibility. Ufuk, my partner that works with us, that will work on the project with you, they are they're on a day-to-day basis looking at all the technologies and how it integrates and make sure that it goes together. You have QAs, quality assurance. Those are testers to make sure that functionally everything is working the way it should, that the performance of the application is meeting the expected criteria. You have that. SMEs, 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 system matter experts. They usually represent the business unit. They represent the clients. Those are the people who may have 15 to 20 years working in this business. They understand the processes, they understand the nuances. So when you're trying to build a solution to help ease the pain points of their job, you want to talk to them because they know exactly what's being done on a day-to-day basis, what exceptions look like. Business analysts, of course, this is what we're talking about. You represent the client organization on the project team. You are the spokesman when it comes to explaining to that IT Pega developer the business needs. You should know enough technology to be able to convey clearly what needs to be done. UX designers, well, that's user interface. You'll always have a UX designer, someone who's an expert to help people design it so that it's aesthetically pleasing and that it meets standards across all of the platforms and devices. And then you have your solution consultants, right? So certain phases, you have those guys that will come in and will do some design, maybe show the team different aspects of what you're working on, so they're always there for your support. So that's a pretty detailed explanation of the stakeholders on a Pega project. So let's go back here. Again, you get in App Studio. In App Studio, that's where you're going to utilize a lot of your tools to help make that happen. All right, so now let's move on to question number 3. Question number 3. Explain how to articulate the benefits of Pega's center out business architecture. So as you guys notice, most of this is not going into the actual system itself, but you have to understand these technologies, understand the methodologies that's associated with Pega, who the stakeholders are, who do you interact with, and how to implement and utilize some of the tools. So center out, you guys should have been aware of that terminology in Pega. Center out means what? You should think of 2 things. You should think of customer centric, right? And business logic. Remember those 2 components. It's customer centric. That means that what we do is revolving around pleasing the customer centric. And then the other component is business logic. It's that business logic layer that becomes the centerpiece of our implementation. So center out approach, transforming the business process that puts the customer and the strategic outcome at the center of the application. Again, it's customer centric, customer focused on delivering the business outcomes. Business outcomes for applications can be one to many case types. You want to make sure that it's meaningful, fast, that it sustains, supports, and upholds the architecture for today, for any future changes that may be implemented. And again, it puts the logic layer at the center of the application design. So when we want to talk about that logic layer, a core component of the logic layer, you remember the classes, the work classes, that's where we're implementing the logic. That's where the majority of the work is happening. The decisions are being made. So let's look at the 5 principles. 5 principles surrounding the center out business architecture. Manage intelligence centrally. Okay? We implement that in the work class. We look at the work, we look at the case life cycle. That's where our work is being done, the activities are being carried out. Focus on outcomes, align your processes. And that takes some work. You got to read the user stories, you have to talk to the SMEs, have a clear understanding of how business is really working, and then you have to build a system that will help you align your processes. Connect experiences up to your channels. Well, you have to realize that when we're creating our applications in Pega, that we have those different channels. And when we talk about channels, we talk about the different channels here that we may have. Let's go to a channel. Different channels in Pega, because they'll ask you about those. So we need to make sure that we align those. Notice that we have personas that's associated with the channels on the case life cycle, but you have the portal, web portal, one channel. Web embedded, that means that the code is embedded into a website. Can't tell if it's Pega running in the background or JavaScript. It all looks the same. Mobile, so is it on a tablet? Is it on a phone? Digital messaging, is it Is it that I'm just sending some type of digital message? A text could be a digital message. Do I need emails? Is that my portal? Or do I want to talk it to some generative AI component? So those are your channels. So you got to connect all of those. Make sure that your processes align with that, that is centrally managed. And then connect down to your data. Keep logic nimble, right? Make sure that your data dash, remember data dash is the reusable data that we use in Pega. It's disconnected. You have access to it through a property that you can utilize to reference, right? That makes the data relationships when I have a work property that references a data property. So what am I talking about that to make sure that we connect down your data types? I go and look at my data. Let's see, which environment am I in? Will I have any data here? Let's bring my system up. Yeah, so these are all my data objects. So my data objects, those are those reusable objects, all right? So we keep those separated from our logic, but when we want to make reference to those, we can actually do that by specifying in our data model one of the properties that will give me access to customer or payment information so that I can then access it that way. And then manage variations to be scale ready. And we hadn't talked about versioning yet, but we'll talk about versioning, but you have different variations. You want to be able to scale it. You need, whether it's 10 people on it, 100 people, or 1,000 people, you want to be able to grow that so that there's no major impact. All right, so let's go to number 4 here. Let's see. All right. So that talked a little bit about stages, persona, data. So that's there. All right. So number 4, describe the value of developing an application in App Studio. All right. Describe the value of developing an application in App Studio. Well, number 1, we know that it's low code. Very, very powerful because I can create UIs and don't have to know anything about React or JavaScript or cascading style sheets. I can quickly do that with a template and a view and components. I don't have to know anything about databases. When I create a case type, it creates a database to associate with that particular case type. Reporting, I have insights, so I don't have to know SQL. The SQL is already generated for me, so I don't have to know how to do that. So it's a very powerful environment. All right, it's a very powerful environment. It's a very collaborative environment for you. It provides tools so that everyone can collaborate and have interactions in there. And so there are 6 principles we want to look at. When it comes to App Studio, it adds value as fast as possible. And I like to say that when you look at that and I go back to case type, I can quickly go and design a case type and I can build UIs. I can add these UIs. I can add stages, right? I can add stages. I can add steps. I can add processes. And when I want to create something, then the context pane opens up for me and I can get it done fairly quickly. All right, I'm gonna go back to my community edition, and the blueprint built this for me, but I can quickly go in and add any of these things just as easy as can be. I can quickly show that to my business users to see if that functionality fits into what they want done, and then I can quickly run and show that to them. Number 2, you want to reduce the number of concepts. Remember, you're building Pega. It is an object-oriented technology, so we want it modular. Contextualize for users' needs. Make sure that as you're building this and you're delighting the customer, that they understand what their environment will look like. You may have to have a different portal based upon the personas, but you want to contextualize that for them. Don't make it just general plain for everyone. Use defaults out of the box. Functionality saves you a lot of time and speed. Provide familiar tools and terminology. It is a web-based design tool that you're utilizing, so make sure you understand the technology or the terminology associated with that. And then, of course, push the boundaries of UX, and we do that with React. React is a common UI development design system, and that interacts with Pega's design system, and so they work well together. So let's go back to this. And so let's take a look at some of the pieces of the App Studio, just so that you are comfortable with those. Here, of course, at App Studio, I can go to different studios. I can look at different applications. You'll see that I have quite a few applications that I've created. So you can go from one application to the other fairly quickly. When you're working on a team, you probably will be working on 2, maybe 3 applications at any given time. Over to the left, you have all of these explorers that will allow you to do a variety of activities, whether it's looking at data with insights, connecting and building channels, looking at your data objects that are available, looking at your business outcomes that you have created, users, adding users and personas that are here. And so it's very, very easy for you to get around to get all of that done. And this is your work area. And when you click, it opens up a context pane for you to go and do the configuration. But remember, every shape, every step that you configure will create and configure one or more rules. At the end of the day, it's creating a rule. So everything is a rule. For instance, when I go run data transform and I create that step, it creates a data transform rule. It creates a data transform rule. If I go here and I click on the gadget, you'll see that here's my data transform, my configuration form. But if I open it in Dev Studio, you'll see that it's actually a rule that was being that was created. Here's my rule, my data transform rule. It is applied to a class. It's in a rule set. So we'll talk about that in our next question. So it's in a rule set. If I go over to my app Explorer, I believe I'm in wealth, and I go to my data, and I go to my transforms. Nope, that's the wrong one. I must be in estate planning. And I go to data model, I go to my data transform, and you'll see there's my document updating. It's going to open the same one. So that is a rule that it's implemented, is the implementation of that step that you design. So every one of the steps will implement one or more rules to carry out that functionality. It's much like an icon on your desktop, right? You have an icon on your desktop. When you click the icon on your desktop, it's running some program. That's how Pega works. But instead of you clicking an icon and it's running a program, you're clicking a shape and it is executing or configuring a rule. It's the same concept, the exact same concept. All right, so let's go back to App Studio. And let's go back to our question. All right, so the next question is generative AI. Articulate the value of generative AI. Again, I talked about you guys will get 4 AI certificates at the end of this class if you do the work. And we do that because you need to know about AI. It's up and coming, and it's going to grow by leaps and bounds. But not only that, Pega has 13 features, 13 new features in this version of their technology. So generative AI, you need to know the value of it. Well, of course, we've all used the chat boxes. We go out. I don't know if you guys know about Chat GPT, Claude, Gemini, DeepSeek. Those are a few of the popular ones that are out there. You can even go to Google and turn on their AI mode. I use all of them. They're very, very popular. I use them to grade your papers. I have an agent that assists me in doing that. I use that to create tests. I use that to capture the recording and to translate it into a different language and to build the documents. So all of that's there, and it will continue to grow. So what's the value of generative AI in Pega? Well, number one, it's going to enhance your learning, improve your productivity. Well, how does it do that? Well, a great example is I can use a blueprint, quickly tell it which industry I'm interested in, and man, it builds out all of this for me. You're talking about improved productivity. Last night I was working on grading a lot of your documents. And so I just went and asked Claude, what's the best way for me to grade all the documents since they're in a folder? But I need you to pull the name out and the score and give me a summary of that. And it created the prompt for me. So I ran the prompt and it quickly goes through all of the folders and pulls out the information that I need, and it built the grade book for me. So improve productivity and enhance learning. It gave me the capabilities to say who had the highest score, who had the lowest score. Overall, what did the students learn best? Overall, what did the students need improvement on? So Pega offers this within its environment. Um, you'll see that the Gen Autopilot, right? So we have the Gen Autopilot that gives you generative features at design time. Now, we tried to do it, and I tried to do it the other day, and it's not connected. Here's the Pega Autopilot. So it's not connected. Every time I would try something, this should be like a chat box, but a chat box inside of the development environment. The Gen Autopilot, if you're not sure how to create a case life cycle, if you don't know what a primary field is, you should quickly be able to prompt it and it would give you the answer. But every time I would try to utilize one of them, I think I'd try to send it, it would tell me that something is not connected and it's not able. Yeah, so this is not connected. You know what? Let's go to its environment. Let's see. They don't have it for this version. So when you go into Pega Academy, it's not available. You go to Community Edition, it's available, but it's not connected. But if it were connected, then now you have the capability to do prompting right inside of your Pega development environment, the App Studio, which is absolutely great. One of the things that I like about Microsoft Copilot, and Microsoft Copilot, as I'm in a spreadsheet, I can bring up Copilot and I can ask it to act upon some of the roles and cells that are right there. Generative AI, that's exactly what Pega is doing. Pega will give you the answer, will help you and guide you through how you can go and update that. Well, Gen AI Blueprint, we're familiar with that, right? We go to Gen AI Blueprint, we want to create a new application, we want to extend it with Blueprint, and it is a separate tool. It's a separate tool from the development environment, but you can go out to it, you can build a file from the Blueprint prompts, and then you can import it into Pega, and now you have that information. So it's going to create your case types, your life cycles, your data models, your data objects, your personas, everything that you need. It's right there. And here's one of the newer features, more of a system architect feature, but in design, you can still utilize this as a step. Let's say, for instance, after I do this, I needed to allow the generative AI model engine to collect this information based upon a prompt that I wrote so that it will bring me in that dynamic information. And I do that through a Gen AI Connect step. So if I went to, let's just go to the flow, and I want a shape, and there's my Gen AI Connect. And notice my Gen AI Connect is saying that give me the prompt. What do you want me to do dynamically or generatively? And then where do you want me to send the response? I can send it to a field, I can send it to a list, or I can send it unstructured just into maybe a notepad or something like that. Wow. Now that's powerful, because now what they've allowed you to do is to integrate your flow and have a step that will use the machine learning to look at what you've already done, run a prompt, and dynamically go and pull that information and then continue on with the flow. So that's very, 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 very powerful in Pega. It's a new feature. People are learning how to use it, but it is definitely there for the using. Okay. And then the next one is the pipeline. The next one is the pipeline. And matter of fact, this is the last one that I'll do, because I think that the rules, yeah, because the rule sets classes. I want a fresh start with that because that's a fairly lengthy conversation. So this is the very last question that we'll do. It says, describe the Pega's CI, continuous integration / CD, continuous delivery pipeline, and deployment manager. Now, you have to understand software development life cycle. Software development life cycle, you have typically 4 core platforms that your development will go through. You have a test environment. That's an individual test that developers may do. You have what we call a training environment, where we'll push it out to that environment, and you have other testers that will test it. Maybe you invite the business unit to come in and test also. You're doing regression testing there. It's a bit more robust than the individual test environment. Then you have your pre-production environment. We're trying to prepare it for a release to make sure that everything that we need to release it is there. And then you got the production environment. Now, you can have more than that. Some people have 5, maybe 6 more, but those are the core 4 that you have. And with that, you have a lot of people that's working in concert with each other. And that's what we utilize in Pega, something called continuous integration, continuous delivery pipeline. And it helps us move our application from development through testing to production. All right. So that continuous integration is the team integrating changes in a shared repository. Now, you may notice that when we're in Pega, let's go back here. Let's go back. Okay. Yep. That's fine. You can't really see this in App Studio, but when I go to Dev Studio, you'll see that here some things are locked, right? So if this is locked, that means that it can't be changed. It's in this particular rule set and it's locked, so it can't be changed. I check it out into a different rule set, an open rule set, and I can make modifications. Well, I show you that because in order for me to deploy an application, and an application has what? Case types. Case types are implemented as a case or as a class, and classes are stored in rule sets, and rule sets are used for deployment. Well, everything has to be locked. If I'm going to move it from one repository to the other, it has to be locked. But also, if I'm working on a team, anybody can check it in or check it out. So I got a shared repository. I want to work on a particular rule or a particular step or artifact. So I get the capability to check it in, check it out. So when I am part of this continuous integration, team is working together and they're working in a shared repository. Things are being checked out, checked in, is being built. And so you have to make sure that everything is ready, that it's shared properly, and that you can integrate the changes. And then the continuous delivery says what? Continuous delivery indicates that the team is always ready to ship. All right. So continuous integration, I'm integrating new features. Delivery, I'm ready to release it and implement it and deploy it into one of the platforms. And in Pega, we have something called a deployment manager. A deployment manager is a tool that helps you move those resources to the appropriate platform, allows you to configure and run and do that. Now, you don't see that on your environment. I think on mine, let's see, what did I do? I went in and added I added an administrative studio. You don't have an administrative studio, but I knew how to go into my access group and add an additional studio. But even in my administration studio, I still have to add another application or rule set to make that happen. They don't they don't provide that with these uh, community editions, but you see on the screen what a deployment manager looks like. And in that deployment manager, you have different stages or statuses. If it says ready to accept, that means that you want to test and run to ensure that it meets the criteria that you need to accept it when it's ready to accept. When you're ready to deploy, that means that it's going to verify all the necessary steps for compatibility testing. And then when it's ready to share, that means that the testing has been ensured that any new changes have been introduced. And then integrate changes, ensure that all the critical tests have been run before new changes have been integrated. Right? And so that is continuous integration and continuous pipeline. All right, so that's where we'll stop. We'll stop there. This evening when I come back, we'll dive right into the role of rule sets, rules, and classes. So thank you for your time. I look forward to seeing you this evening. It looks like everyone showed up that's been consistent. So thank you for your time and your effort, and I look forward to seeing you this evening.